Peace. Peace, family. Peace. You about to jump right into science. Give me 1 second. We always have to put the right thing in the app, give our message. So with that being said, let's start off with our divine warning. And our prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read, proclaim at each meeting. Dated January 15th, Morris, 1929. And it states, I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work or in the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation more, and failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequences. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and my 2 cents, health, and wealth. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws that's laid down to us by our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if any Moors lose confidence in our prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing the turban and fez, and return to the state where we were found. This is a holy and divine movement founded by our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that we end all hate and we do our best in protecting the temple. Movement founded by our prophet Noble Drew Ali through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways, Moors. We must remember this. We must remember that. That's one of the keys. Speak peace and that I am peace. I pray that I think truth, speak truth, and that I am truth. I pray that I think love, speak love, and that I am love. I pray everything I attract. In me, may the light within you serve as a beacon for those that need it. Amen. Amen. Ra. Shalom. Aya Asha Aya. Assalamu alaikum. And my last prayer for positivity we have to put in the atmosphere is our benediction. May the benison of Allah be upon thee and thine always, as thou should strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow the acts of love upon thy brethren, and doest thy best to shun all evil ones. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standing, that ye might nourish the souls of all men. Let the truth be thy shield in the manifest battles of falsehood. Knowest that there's not a need to pick the lock to the gates of paradise by means of petty or criminal theft. For behold, Moors, the key to salvation already rests, even though it God, Moors, we must understand certain words to where we get out of this spookism and get into knowledge. We must understand that. We must understand what words mean and the background and etymology and etymon. We must understand what nouns and verbs and adverbs and conjunctions. We must understand this, but we can't get caught up in linguistic apartheid, Moors. So I'm going to give you a couple words that you should know, and I want you to research them. We're going to jump into this teaching. Occult is Latin, which means to hide, conceal, secrete, or cover up, Moors. Apocrypha is Greek way. In Latin, it means hide away. The esoteric, the es, the Greek, the es, the eis, it equals within, the hidden meaning. The exoteric is the outer, which is understood by the general public, Moors. When we speak of theosophy and high science, is any of a number of philosophies maintaining that a knowledge of Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, name you give the theosophy or the theosophy S equals God. So again, we have Latin occulture down from over, from the verb occular. Knowledge of spiritual mysteries, Morris, is gnosis, which is Greek. Gnosis is knowledge, is to know. We must know these, Morris. Apocrypha, scripta, is hidden reads, Morris. As for likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest. Exoteric, Morris, is Greek, is the outside or the outer meaning, doctrine or mode of speech intended for, and jump to this teaching because we're getting things twisted. We must remember, Moors have many and a plethora. When I say a plethora of headdresses, depending on your culture, okay, Moors? We have a plethora. This wisdom we wore depending on your culture, Moors, or their toppy or their brimless hat. The Greek tribe. Look at their fez. Look at their toppies. Sultan Paglima, God, 1891, West Sumatra. Then you have Sultan and a Raja, both wearing fezes in the 1800s in Indonesia. Come on, Moors. What are we arguing about? What's the confusion? Sri Sultan in Indonesia, in the Philippines. You see the hairdressers, Moors? All through history. You see them with the Bontoc fez? You see that? You see that, Moors? The Sri Lanka, the Surat Tapis. Colombo is, you can research this in the Colombo Museum. It's here. It's right there. There's no secret, Moors. The wisdom is right there. I'm going to read another caption. Groups of Silion Moors at Michigan Library, dated in 1190. Notice that they are wearing a mixture of Surat Tapis and Turco Tapis. You see that, Moors? Just look. This is ours. We were a plethora of headdresses. Depending on your culture, is what type of fez that you wore. Ancient Olmec jaguar deity, which consequently been leaked to ancient West Africa to scholars. Fez style headgear can even be traced back and are displayed on ancient sculptures and monuments. Jaguar deity. Deity, Moors. Lemur head with a fez type head covering, which has really no wisdom come from the West. All wisdom comes from the East. One nationality with many cultures. Other so-called Native American fez. I have pointed out before, Moors, in lectures and studies and conversations. What didn't teach you in your so-called black, that there is a great similarity in ancient Maori headdress and that of the Seminole chiefs. Both cultures seem to have worn a fez-type crown with what appears to be a turban or some kind. Here we go, Moors. No need to argue. That is the Seminole chief Billy Bowlegs. Here, compare the two. Look, similar, Moors. The Easter Island statue, NAMBLA, also known as Menes, unified Upper and Lower Egypt for the first time, and therefore founded the first dynasty of a unified Egypt, wearing a fez-type crown. Here we are, once again, We don't have to argue. If you're a scientist, one word, only one law. Khufu, originally Kumen Khufu, ancient Egyptian pharaoh who ruled in the first half of the Old Kingdom period. So what does the fez symbolize? You should know this science, Moors. You should know this science. It's there. The sacred geometry of the fez. I can go on and give you the history of it. Look at Elijah Muhammad in the fez. I'm telling you, Moors, it's so much stuff that people are not telling you because they're trying to convert you to some religious dogma. And that's not more science. I promise you. So with that being said, let's jump into this topic and this teaching. When we talk about historical facts, when I tell Moors, when I demonstrate everything means something, nothing is osmosis. So if Moors understand human sexuality and history and ancient history, then you can see how things were perverted in history. Like far as the Greek history, this is their history. You can research the writings from their pen. If you're a scholar, if you're a student, Moors, this is a topic. This is your hat. Everything is ours. This is a brimless top. Just like in the biblical scriptures, a bonnet, a kufi, all yours. All yours. All our brimless hats. Everything from the Moors. From the fez. Let me show you something, Moors. We got to get things correct. From the fez to our turban, from our turbans, from our bonnets. These are all our headdresses, Moors. Period. I'm sorry. I just showed you, demonstrated the reason why we're lost in translation, because we're being connotated. All we have to do is do a simple research. One nationality, many cultures. If you look at what the prophet demonstrated when the ancient rite of Egypt and the mystery schools, look at all the different fezes that the brothers have on, depending on their culture, Moors, depending on where they're from, depending on what region. One nationality with many cultures, Moors. I just showed you that in the book. Look. If that's what you feel, whatever, indeed. But I don't argue with people. I'm a scientist and a student. I don't have time. How you feel that's the person's religious belief, so be it. I'm not here to argue with a person. I'm not here to convert anyone. I know who I am, and I know who I am, and I challenge you to know who you are. And that's it. And we can agree to disagree all day. But God and man is one in more science. And that's it. So if a person feel a different way about anything, that's okay with me. I'm not here to convert anyone. That's not what I do. That's not what I do. So if a person feels some way emotionally, you have to get out your emotions and get with real facts and history. I know who I am. I know what my divine creed is. That's it. Some history, Moors. If you understand science, Moor, I'm not here to argue or agree. I'm giving you science. I just told you I'm a Moor. I just told you I'm a Moor. If you follow what I'm saying, I don't agree to nothing. That's Greek. If the Messiah, if you read Acts 24 and 5, read Acts 24, Acts chapter 25 and 4, I think it's 24 and 5. I'm paraphrasing, but I have to look at it. It says this pestilent fella is the ringleader of the Nazarenes. The ringleader of Nazarenes. So they're talking about their nationality. So what name your inheritance is attached to your name. You can't change your name. So if your background, for instance, if you are a Hebrew, your name is going to be Hebrewic. Your name is going to be Yahshua. It's not going to be Greek. Antichrist means replacement. I'm just a historian. And in a replacement theology, you have two. You have Serapis Christos and you have Caesar Borgia. It's just facts, man. If somebody crams something down your throat and give you nothing to compare to, you're going to think that's written, and that's not it. So let's get with our history, Moors. If you want to say Jesus is Lord, that's fine. That's on you. But do some history and do some research. Do some research how things was covered up. Do some research why things was brought to certain people. And then you'll understand. I'm not here to argue with nobody. I know who I am. I know my nationality, and I know my spirituality. It's Islamism. I'm a Moor, so I don't disrespect any religion because it's all the same tenets. All the same tenets, Moors. So if you understand the triple rows of the doubt chamber, understanding the parsley right, the Judaism right, and the Christian right, and the essence of it, then you understand what I'm saying. But if you're caught up in your religious dogma, I don't have time for that, Moors. So in history, if you a scientist, when brothers say they research and do this, research Greek history, research human sexuality, and see how the Greeks with this Catholic thing, and they say how homosexuality was the perfect way for a boy to come up in the so-called Christian life. This is not me. This is history. This is their pen. In classical antiquity, this writers such as Herodotus, all them, and many others explored aspects of homosexuality in Greece. Moors, most widespread and social significance form of same-sex sexual relations in ancient Greece was between an adult man and a pucent, or the adolescent boys, known as pedestry. Marriage in ancient Greece between men and women were also age structure, Moors, with men in their 30s commonly taking wives in their early teens, Moors. Though sexual relations between adult men did exist, at least one member of each of the relationships floated social conventions by assuming a passive sexual role, Moors. Come on. This is not me. This is history. It's their pen. It's their pen. This is Western history. The ancient Greeks did not conceive of sexual orientation as a social identifier, as modern Western societies have done. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about pedestry or pedestry, the most common form of same-sex relationships between males in Greece was pedestria, P-A-I-E-R-A-S-T-I-A, meaning boy love. And I'm going to show you what it is in modern history. It was a relationship between an older male and an adolescent youth. A boy was considered a boy until he was able to grow a full beard, Moors. In Athens, the older man was called what? Eratus. He was to educate, protect, love, and provide a role model for the Eromenus, who rewarded for him, lay in his beauty, youth, and promise. You know I'm telling the truth, Moors. I do these lectures on college campuses all day. I don't get into arguments with people. All my lectures packed with all different nationalities, period. The roots of Greek pedestry lie in the trial past of Greece before the rise of the city-state as a unit of political organizations. These tribal communities were organized according to age groups, Moors, period. I don't know what that got to do. That ain't with me. That's foolery. That's foolery. More than ain't real. That's foolery. If you follow my pages, you know I don't deal with foolery and criminal. I am a law-abiding American. Anything that's outside of the parameters of the law are aliens. So when Moors are doing all that, squatting in houses, that's not what I teach, because that's not Moor science. That's criminal stuff. There's no way you can avoid paying taxes or none of that unless you understand the law and understand what a business is. I show people how not paying taxes get you locked up. Research the Paradigm Group. It was a European in Canada, like he was going around teaching people how to pay not to pay taxes. And look where they at. Look where they at. In jail. He's in jail, and everybody being all they have to pay. So if you don't know law and history, and a person giving you a title or something because they talk with a silver tongue and eloquently, they're getting you in trouble. And that's not more science. I teach things lawfully. I teach about living trust. I teach you about establishing yourself the right way as a business. So it's certain taxes you don't pay if you know the law. Just like the Goodwill, just like the Boys and Girls Club. You're tax exempt from federal government. I am a school. Yes, I am a Moor, but I'm a businessman. I have a school and I'm tax exempt from federal, education, scientific, charitable. Come on, man. Nothing that I teach is criminal. And I'm a doctoral student at Oklahoma University. I'm getting my doctoral degree in Indigenous People Law and Policy. I teach history, period. Period. All in the military. The Sacred Band of Thebes, a separate military unit reserved only for men and their beloved, is usually considered the prime example of how the ancient Greeks used love between soldiers in a troop to boost their fighting spirit. The Thebans attributed the sacred band, the powers of the Thebes, for the generation before its fall to Philip II of Macedon, who was so impressed with their bravery during battle, he erected a monument that still stands today. Also gave a harsh criticism of the Spartan views of the band. I mean, I can go on and on with this history, Morris. I mean, research the gender representation in Greek theater. The gender representation in Greek theater was that of the stereotypical roles within ancient Greece. Men were sought to be manipulative, powerful, had control over their own free will and control over their surroundings. Women were expected to be contained to their houses and to do all the housework. Come on, Morris. You got to get out your feelings and get into history. Period. Achilles and the Patroclus, the first recorded appearance of a deep emotional bond between adult men in ancient Greece culture, was in the latter 800 BC. Homer does not depict the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus as sexual. The ancient Greeks emphasized the support age difference between the two by portraying Patroclus with a beard in painting and pottery. I can go on and on. I can go on and on, Morris. It's just what it is. History. His story. His story. That's his story. Period. The history tells the stories of humanity. Narrative history tells the story of individuals or political entities or schools of thought, interacting usually as the participant in notable events. Morris. Social history tells the stories of everyday folk and their societies and cultures as they develop and change through time. Morris, I'm talking about NAMBLA. Research John Burnside, Harry Hay, and Jim Kepner marching in the spirit on Stonewall demonstration in New York, 1994. Research this history. From famous couples such as Oscar Wilde and Lord Alfred Douglas, to cultural institutions such as that of ancient Greece, like I just was demonstrating, and the pastry, to cultural concepts such as China's passion of the cut sleeves, to iconic figures such as Francis Bacon or Walt Whitman, from the earliest known homoerotic couples, Shemekia and Akhenaten, to medieval Andalusian troubles, to the 20th century figures such as Allen Ginsberg and Arthur C. Clarke. See, man, boy, love spans every dimension of history in Western culture, Morris. So I'm going to give you a little bit of 15 famous men who had this boy love thing. And I'm done because, like I said, I give history. Get your pens and paper. Pindar, from 514 to 430 BC, was a Greek poet. His beloved was a beautiful young boy, Theognostus of Tyndaeus, in whose arm he is said to have died in the theater at Argos. He once wrote of himself, "I like wax of the sacred bees when smitten by the sun, and melted with when I look at the young limbs of a boy." This is their history. Alexander the Greek, not the Great, the Macedonian ruler, among the peace offerings sent to him by the Persians after the death of King Darius III, was an uncommonly beautiful boy. Bagius, who had been castrated at an early age to preserve his tender young looks. According to one source, Bagnius had been loved by Darius and was afterwards to be loved by Alexander. Callus, 84 to 54 BC, Roman poet. In his poems, he liked to boast of his conquest of young boys and bragged that once, after surprising a boy and girl in the act of making love, he mounted the boy to please Venus. Catullus, barely 30 when he died, expressed disgust for most homosexualities, except those except those who were active lovers of young boys. This is history, Morris. This is their story. Hadrian, the Roman emperor, 76 to 138 AD. His great love was Antiochus, a 15-year-old boy he discovered on a journey through Bithynia. When Antiochus died by drowning at the age of 21, Hadrian was grief-stricken. All through history, Strato, 2nd century Greek poet, one of the most cheerful, gluteous boy chasers of ancient world. Strato was the editor and primary author of the Musa Parallels, an anthology of over 200 scriptures or writings devoted to the subject of boy love. Morris. Leonardo da Vinci, 1452 to 1519, an Italian painter, inventor, scientist per se. At the age of 38, Leonardo adopted a beautiful but roguish 10-year-old boy nicknamed Sala, which means little devil. His presence in Leonardo's home has perplexed scholars for several centuries, Morris. Since Sala was neither servant nor apprentice, and since Leonardo himself described the boy as a thieving, lying, a glutton, the two were inseparable companions for nearly 26 years, Morris. Michelangelo, 1475 to 1564, the so-called Italian sculptor. Michelangelo was in his late 60s when he met Cicino di Brasi, the charming and beautiful 15-year-old nephew of one of his friends. Of the boy's beauty, he wrote, and I quote, "With his face, God wished to correct nature." Braca died in 1544 at the age of 16. Michelangelo designed the boy's tomb and composed no fewer than 50 poems mourning his death. Other boys thought to have been Michelangelo's lovers were Geraldo Pernini, a strikingly beautiful young male model whose relationship with Michelangelo was the subject of much gossip at that time, Morris. Tommaso Cavarilli, an intelligent and handsome young nobleman who reminded one of Michelangelo's lifelong friends, and Fibo di Poggi. All these young boys, nothing's new under the sun, Morris. Christopher Marlowe, 1564 to 1593, an English dramatist, are best characterized by his famous writings, "All they that love not tobacco and boys are fools." This is what they written, Morris. John Addington Symonds, 1840 to 1893, the English author and historian. He believed that beauty came first before virtue. And as a fellow at Magdalen College, he became infatuated with a choir boy after another, suffering a nervous breakdown at 23. He went to Switzerland to recover his health, and there apparently had an affair with a young 19-year-old. It's all there. I told you about Oscar Wilde, 1854 to the 1900s. The Irish dramatic and wit. He once bragged to a friend of having had love affairs with 5 different boys in a single night. Research this science. Frederick Alfred Crump, 1854 to 1902, the German industrialist, described by one writer as a devious and disingenuous character. Crump set up a lavish private pleasure palace in a grotto on Capri, where he entertained underage Italian boys, mostly the sons of local fishermen. Sex was performed to accommodate of a live stream quantity, Morris. You don't got to listen to me. Research it. Constantine Caffey, from 1863 to 1933, which was a Greek poet. Living in Alexandria, he frequented the house of prostitution where strong, well-built Greek boys, most of them poor and with wretched jobs during that day, earned extra money by having sex with homosexuals. This is history. If you study human sexuality, if you went to college or not, you know of this. You know of this history. Andre Gide, 1869 to 1951, a French author. He had his first homosexual experience when he was 23 with a 14-year-old Arab boy in Tanzania. In Algeria, he fell in love with his 15-year-old servant boy. Guy wanted to take him back to France, but Guy's mother objected to the idea of a Negro in a house. When he was 47, Guy fell in love and had a long-lasting affair with a 16-year-old boy, Mark Allegret, who later became a well-known film producer. So you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. All I ask you to do is do history. Research history. Research Allen Ginsberg, the NAMBLA member. Research the trial of Oscar Wilde. Research the O Tribe that loved boys. Research the magic of Wim von Gloeden, Vongloeden. Research Harry Hay and the roots of that movement. Research Sappho was a right-on girl lover when you're talking about boys. Research Walt Whitman and Bill Duke. I'll give you this. Bill Duckett. I'll give you this and I'm done. You can pull this up. I have the pictures. Walt Whitman and Bill Duckett, the man-boy lovers. This is by Charlie Shively. This is their pen. I can go on and tell you how this. Bill Duckett's relationship to Walt Whitman can be glimpsed in the photograph of the two taken together around 1886. You can research all this history that I'm telling you, man. You don't have to listen to me or like what I'm saying, but if you're a historian and you know history, you understand it, and you operate in love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, health, and my 2 cents, health and wealth. I love you all, man. Islamism. Peace.